Hi, this is Alex from PHP Academy and welcome to the CSS tutorial on background size. Now, a new property that's been added to CSS is the background size property, which allows us to control the size of a background image. Now, this is obviously extremely useful when we need to change the size of a background image. For example, if we were loading an image that was slightly too large for our purposes, we might want to go ahead and make it smaller, or if we were loading a smaller image and we wanted to make it larger, we could do so. And the advantage of this is that we wouldn't need to load, say, two files if we wanted to use, say, a small icon somewhere or a large icon somewhere. So we can resize something just by using our styles. So we're going to load in an image into a container and we're going to change the size of the background image, and I'm going to show you a couple of other properties as well that aren't measurements that are also quite useful. So let's go ahead and create a container. I'm going to create a div with an ID of container. Nothing's going to go inside because we're obviously going to be using background images. Let's go ahead and select this element. We'll go ahead and give this a width of, say, 300 pixels. We'll give it a height of 300 pixels. We'll also give it a border so we can see what we're containing within. So just give it a black border. Oops. Okay, so now comes to our background. So we want to set a background image. I'm going to choose the URL, which is images/tick.png. Now I'm going to say no repeat, because obviously we don't want the image to repeat, and I'm going to say 50%, 50% there. So that's going to be 50% from the top and 50% from the left. Now, in the last video, which was on background, multiple backgrounds, I said that the image had an anchor point, if you like, or I'm not sure of the exact term, but yeah, a point where you would say 50%, 50%, and these 2 points would be from the top left of that background image. Now, I was actually wrong. The point that this anchor point is actually in the center. So I've also just noticed I've used the background image property, and I want to use the background property because I'm combining the longhand values into one here. Okay, so when we go ahead and refresh, you can see that image is displayed in the exact center of the element. Again, just demonstrating my incorrect mention in the last video of the anchor point being in the top left hand corner. It would actually be in the center. Anyway, let's go ahead and modify the background size of this image. So we need the background size property. So if we come down here and say background size, we can go ahead and we can specify a value, a width and a height to this. So obviously we could say something like 100 pixels by, say, 50 pixels. That would obviously slightly change the image dimension so it looks a bit odd, but we could go ahead and just say, I don't know, 150 pixels, which would obviously naturally, as we use in CSS, would say the height and the width. So we're maintaining the ratio of this. So when I refresh, you can see that the background image has maintained its proportions, but it's now 150 pixels in height and width. So this is a very simple property, but we can go ahead and use slightly different or more advanced values for this property. These two values are contain and cover. Now, they obviously do slightly different things, but they more or less do what you would expect. Now, what contain will do is it will fill the element that the background image has been applied to, and it will actually take the shortest length of a particular element and it will fill that, but it won't clip. Because it's taking the shortest, it won't clip over the edges, for example. So when I refresh, you can just see that this has filled the entire area, and that's contained within it. Now, if this had been, say, 300 pixels by 100 pixels, maybe in width, we could also then go ahead and use the cover property. We might actually be able to use this with the bubble PNG. So if I say contain, The bubble PNG is not a specific height and the same height and the width. So when I go ahead and refresh, you can see that that's been contained within. Everything's still, everything's still shown in there. If I say cover, you'll notice that it has come outside of the boundary of our element, and that's because it has taken the height, which is the shortest width of it, and it has essentially just cut out the rest of the image. So it's tried to fit as much as possible in terms of actually filling up the container. Fairly hard to explain, but if you play around with different images, with different heights and widths, then it's a lot easier to grasp how it works for you. However, it's probably very rare that you'd need to do something like this. Contain is a really useful option, and as well as that, actually using sizes to specify your background image size. So that's the background size property in CSS.